We have joining us right now Aderemi Adegboyega, the president of Human Capital Providers Association of Nigeria, HUCAPAN as it is called. Good morning. Nice to see you.
Good morning.
Great. We also have Rosalyn Onolaja, first vice president of the association as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Thank you for having
me. All right, let me start with the president. Okay. Basically, in the 70s and 80s, when Nigeria was seen as very productive in the economy and employment and all of that in comparative terms, we didn't hear much about the issue of outsourcing. But in recent times, in the past few decades, we hear of outsourcing, which a lot of people have kicked against. Labor unions have come against it and all of that. Make us understand basically this outsourcing, or the casualization as it is called in different climes. What does it really entail?
Okay, let me start from your primary assumption. In the first instance, around 2002, there was a huge move by the then leadership of trade unions under the comrade Adams Oshiomhole to picket organizations that were casualizing labor and that were marginalizing labor in Nigeria. Then the picketing started from Ikeja to Lagos to Apapa and all of those places. So there were incidents of casualization and marginalization of labor then in 2000. What now happened was that because Nigeria had signed along other countries into the Convention 181, which established private employment agencies to be part of the labor market and to actually help in reducing incidents of unfair labor practices. Our Ministry of Labor, together with employers and labor itself, decided to look at how to license outsourcing agencies and private employment agencies to provide employment in a structured manner and to support the mainstream employers in providing employment that will provide fair labor practices. So that actually was about the time that private employment agencies started in Nigeria. So now, why do we have outsourcing agencies all over the world now? Because it's not peculiar to Nigeria, like I said. If you look at structures, you find maybe about 37,000 agencies in UK, maybe about 27,000 agencies in America. In Zurich, in Switzerland, you have many agencies. And so you have outsourcing agencies all over the world. Why are they there? The emerging forms of employment these days is different from what it was when people like us started getting jobs.
All right, let me put you on hold, sir, and come to your colleague also here in the studio with us. Talking about, Mr. Adegboyega has talked about, it's not exactly peculiar to Nigeria, but then how has this outsourcing and casualization trend adversely or positively affected the system here in Nigeria?
Outsourcing has affected Nigeria in a big way. Okay, it has, because it has through the practice, employment has thrived. Employment has thrived, and organizations they've also been able to tap into the system such that they are able to benefit from the flexibility that the practice bring about. And in terms of criminalization, yeah, criminalization, we can't say it does not exist. It does exist, but it's also something that we frown at. Okay, even the same way the ministry also frowns at criminalization. Casualization. Okay, it's one of the things that we hold dear. I mean, preventing it, and the objective of HUCAPAN and even the ethos of HUCAPAN totally frowns at it, and that is why we hold on to the motto that everywhere a Nigerian is found working, he or she must have a decent job. Okay? And that is what we work based on.
All right, let me take it up from there. Everywhere in Nigeria, everyone should have a decent job. But certainly we have heard a lot of agitation from those who are casual workers of not having a decent job. They complain of not having access to pensions. They complain of not being paid well. In fact, sometimes there are discrepancies where they say, okay, some people have access to information of how much the real organization pays in the respect of an individual, and then sometimes 50% of that money only is what gets to them. We hear of all of these things. What's your concern?
Now I want to tell you that when you set standards, they obey laws of gravity. Unless you show it up with supervision, they're not going to be there forever. Now, this is our code of conduct for every member of Hookapan. We subscribe to this code of conduct, and the code of conduct is about making sure that there are decent jobs in Nigeria. But we cannot pretend to say that in spite of the fact that some of us obey standards, that there are not people who are practicing illegally. As of this moment, we know that there are some private employers, private employment agencies that are not even licensed, and they're being used by some organizations.
So what is your union doing about this? Because it gives all of you a bad name. Whether you are aware or you're not aware, whether you are involved or you're not involved, the issue is that casualisation is one thing that is going to be criminalized from the way it is going. It is not in our place to say yes or no in that regard. But the point is, most Nigerians are coming against it.
For instance,
so what has your union done?
We don't have casuals. People that are members of Hookapas don't have casual. They have private full-time employees. For instance, the issue is that it does not matter whether it's TVC that's employing you or that is Mr. Adegboyega that's employing you, as long as your standard and conditions of employment are as good as what TVC gives, or even better. That is what private employment agencies are for. And we're working with Ministry of Labour to make sure that we show up the capacity to inspect. Like I told you before, you see, it's good for us to have memory, institutional memory. If you go back to what has happened in Nigeria, it's about lack of supervision. When there's no labor inspection any longer. When we were growing up as a personnel officer in 1980, the Ministry of Labour officials would come in their 504 then, they would look through your books, and you'll be subjected
Who
to...
is meant to supervise?
All right,
it's the Ministry of Labour that supervises.
Right, let me even get Mr. Okulaja's take now on this. Now, how this process in the legislature now will enhance the supervision, as Mr. Adegboyega has said, now how we can have a better system now that will regulate the workplace generally.
Okay, the role of monitoring belongs to the Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment, okay? And as Hookapan and as employment agencies, we are partners with them, okay? We're partners with the ministry, and all of this is towards ensuring that the practice is properly done and that practitioners, they stick to the rule. And like Mr. Adegboyega has said, this is the code of conduct is something that we hold here, and we match whatever it is we do or our member organizations do with the code of conduct. Okay, so the legislation, the legislation, how will the legislation, again, the labor review is ongoing at the moment, okay, and what we expect, rather than criminalizing or outlawing outsourcing, what we expect is better supervision from the ministry, and also ensuring that practitioners are licensed.
Right.
All right. We have to leave it here for now. The discussion will certainly continue. Thank you very much, Rosaline Onulaja, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Aderemi Adegboyega, thank you very much.
Thank you for being our host.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joining us now is Rosaline Onulaja, first Vice President of the Human Capital Providers Association of Nigeria. It's nice to have you join us right now.
Thank you.
Make us understand, why is there need for outsourcing of jobs in the first place?
Okay, outsourcing, the concept of outsourcing in itself is global. Okay, so it's not peculiar to Nigeria alone, and it's to meet the need and demands of labor market and the growing nature of job. Okay, so organizations, yeah, they no longer want to continue to keep a whole lot of people on their payroll. Okay, organizations want to be more efficient, want to be more effective, so they would rather keep a lean number of top talents, and those jobs that are not core to their businesses, it's better, it's more efficient for them to outsource to professionals and to experts. Okay, one thing I must make clear is employment agencies or providers of outsourcing services are professionals and experts on their own. Okay, they have developed systems, okay, that can enable them provide manpower to organizations in a very quick manner with people that are qualified. Okay, and so the process of organizations having to go through the entire works of recruiting, support people, drivers, both skilled and unskilled, even supervisory and at the top management level is reduced.
So where does the conflict come from, basically? Because all you've said sounds really good on paper. We've seen some of these outsourcing, companies at work, bringing value indeed to the system. Where does the conflict come on board, and how does Hukopan, seek to, clear all these hiccups?
Okay, what conflict are you talking about now?
The conflict between your association now and the National Assembly and even Nigerians who are complaining.
Okay,
Absolutely.
well, I honestly do not know where that conflict is coming from, but I know that what the National Assembly is seeking to correct is casualisation, okay, which in itself is good, okay, because I mean, as practitioners, we also do not encourage casualisation, okay? But be that as it may.
Is there a difference between casualisation and outsourcing?
Casualisation is, outsourcing is the concept in itself, okay? Casualisation is a process whereby you engage people in an unstructured manner.
Okay. Unlike outsourcing.
Unlike outsourcing. Outsourcing is much more structured.
All right, we have to leave you here now. Rosaline Onolaja, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.